Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and this is Expedition 3 Pages, and today is episode 2, that's 4, episode 2 of Where's Santa 2024. So today is the 6th of December and yesterday I finished Ex-Wife by Ursula Parrott, which was narrated by Alyssa Bennett. I was already partway through this book, so I just had to finish it. I had a few hours left, I think, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one actually. I thought it was good. I gave it 4 stars. So this book was written in 1929 by Ursula Parrott, and people believe that this is a work that was inspired quite a lot by her own life story. She has quite a sad life story, well, definitely a story with many ups and downs in it. And it does seem like there are some parallels to what happens to the main character in this book as to what happened in her own life. So you're following Patricia, who is a young woman. I think when you meet her, it's like the mid-20s, and she's married to a guy who she met when she was, 19, 20 or something. They fell madly in love and wanted to get married. However, when we meet them, the marriage is falling apart and it becomes quite brutal and violent as well. Definitely a lot of trigger warnings in this book, so if there's anything that you're worried about reading, definitely look it up, because there's some quite intense storylines throughout this, even though this is quite a short book. But yeah, so you're hearing from Patricia when her marriage is just breaking down, and she's really, really reluctant for this to happen. Even though her husband is being awful to her, she just hangs on and she doesn't want it to be a failure. And this leads to some really interesting discussion in the book, because essentially the time that it was written in the 1920s was a kind of time of new freedom for women. But the book really talks about the fact that because of these new freedoms for women, it's also kind of a ticket out for men, in the fact that no longer is marriage like a safe space for women who want to stay within the marriage, which of course by modern standards, like, nobody should be forced into a marriage, man or female or non-binary, whatever. You shouldn't have to stay into a marriage if you don't want to. But before this time, it was a lot more difficult to get divorced, and for women that meant that once you were in a marriage, you were pretty much secure. But at the time that Patricia's living in, she is, having to separate from her husband. She doesn't want to, and suddenly she's, flung out into this world and has to defend for herself. She has always worked, even when she was married, but she just doesn't want that. And her friends have this big discussion of the fact that they have lost this security, and it has kind of green lighted men to be with women until they get to a certain age and they no longer want to be with them anymore, and they can disregard them and get a new model that they do desire and want now. And I just found it was a really, really interesting thing to think about, like the flip side of getting those freedoms and getting the women's rights, and definitely gives you a different side of thinking about how it impacted women. And also because in the 1920s, this is set in America, so it's also during Prohibition, and so there's loads of drinking, and women are suddenly being invited out with the men, given the scotch the same as the men, and kind of treated as one of the lads, I guess. It's just a strange new world that they're living in, essentially. And because Patricia and one of her friends that she is with a lot at the start of the story, because they're both ex-wives, this makes it easier for men to kind of bring them into their party scene, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it's just a really, really interesting book. And apparently when it came out anonymously, and it caused loads of ruckus because it's quite a frank, bold story of this woman and of relationships and how things were at that time. And then when the author kind of was revealed, she then went on to write multiple other stories and also screenplays as well. She wrote a few screenplays, and some of her other novels got turned into movies, as did this one. I think it's called The Divorcee, the movie that this was turned into, which I do now want to watch. But as the author went on, even though her work was like wildly successful, it reached a point where it plateaued and then dipped. And she had some bad press because she did some things that people didn't approve of, and then essentially all her work got lumped into women's fiction before it was like really popular. So herself and other authors were kind of disregarded. I learned this in the foreword, by the way. It kind of spoke a little bit about this, but her work kind of got pushed aside and just called women's fiction, and people were not interested in it anymore. And for me, I feel like that's a shame, because actually I really liked her writing. I thought it was I don't really know how to describe her writing because I don't have a degree in English literature or anything, but I felt like it was clever, like it was smart writing. It didn't feel fluffy. It wasn't like a cozy romance or a cozy mystery. You know, sometimes the writing can be very simplistic. Like, this wasn't that. And I feel like it's a shame if she was so disregarded. Not that those other people should be disregarded, but you know what I mean. It wasn't like easy fiction. It was quite complicated and the themes were very heavy. And, you know, it's not a light, fluffy read, if that's what they decided it was in the end, if that's what they meant by women's fiction, I don't know. So yeah, I really did enjoy reading it, and I would recommend it if you're interested in finding more about that time as written by someone who was from that time. I think it was written in 1929, and at the end of the book, you're basically in that time period as well. So for me, it was interesting to hear about how things were in New York at that time from a contemporary point of view. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. So because I finished it yesterday, I was really exhausted last night and I just didn't want to be on camera. So I filmed myself choosing the number and choosing the box, but I only looked at the book, so I haven't looked at the question yet. But I'll cut to that footage now. Okay, so as you saw, I pulled The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which was one of the other books that I'm partway through. I really didn't put that many in, and I can't believe they've come out like 2 in a row. Like, the game really wants me to just wrap up my reads from November. That's how it feels. I actually thought just before I did this, or while I was finishing Ex-Wife, I thought, I kind of hope it doesn't go to this book because I could do with like a new read. I really felt like having a new read, but the gods have spoken and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall it is. So I have started reading this already, and where I picked up on it was the beginning of volume 3. So I was already like really far through it, which is good because it's long. So that starts on page 357. And then right now I'm on page 386. So I don't have too much long to go. And I'm currently listening to it and reading along at the same time. There are parts of the book that the audiobook don't include. So when I get to those bits, then I just read the paragraphs myself. I really feel like, though, they cut out some of the good paragraphs. So it's a shame that it's abridged. And it doesn't even say it's abridged. But anyway, this is the next book that I'm going to read, and I will talk more about it in the next video. I put it back so I didn't spoil it, but we did choose number 15, which is really good for me because it's on this line, which means we're only 2 numbers away from getting a bingo on this row. Okay, I just paused my video because I just remembered that all the boxes it fell upside down and some of the boxes came out, and then without looking at them, I put them back, and like without looking inside them. And I meant to check the order that they were actually in before, but then I never did. And I just thought, oh, I better check now before I carry on. And I just realised that these 2 were switched round and these 2 were switched round as well. So everything's back in its rightful place, which means that this is number 19. This was number 3 from the last video. I think in the last video that you should have already seen, everything was in the wrong place. But that doesn't affect the gameplay. I'm so stupid, I should have checked it before. Anyway, so for this one, we chose number 15, and so it's right here. It still helps me, it doesn't actually change anything. So I'm going to put that back, and then we can find out what the question is. So I believe this is another discussion question, so let's see what it is. Oh, do you collect special editions or first prints? First prints. They must be hard to get hold of. I do have some special editions, I guess. I'll go and get some, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So I think there's like 3 main things where I have special editions for. So this is actually my newest one, but I decided to buy all of Terry Pratchett's books in these editions because I absolutely love them. I forget what they're called. Actually, I think they're all called different things. So these two here are the Unseen University collection. This is book 1 and this is book 2. I'm reading them in order. I've actually only read these 2. I've still got all of the rest to go. But yeah, I just absolutely love them. Like the dragon's shiny, and then this is here, and then there's another bit on the back. And then we've got the Light Fantastic, which is nice as well. And then I bought, but I haven't read yet, Equal Rights, which is number 3. And yeah, this is like the first witchy one. So this is the Witches collection. So can you see? Yeah. Oh, I just absolutely love them. They're so good. So yeah, I can't wait to read this one and read more in his world. I did enjoy The Colour of Magic. I know not a lot of people do like this one so much, but I enjoyed The Light Fantastic more than The Colour of Magic. I thought it was more engaging. I liked the storyline better, although there was some fun stuff in here as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Then I also have the special fabric kind of editions of Jane Austen's work. So that's all this here. I forget what it's called. But yeah, absolutely love these editions. They're kind of hard to hold, but they look amazing. And then these next books are books that I've definitely collected the special editions of, in addition to having the paperbacks. And that is, of course, My Amazing Robin Hobb and these hardback editions of The Assassin's Apprentice. So the Farseer trilogy. They haven't brought any others out. I was kind of hoping that they would do like the whole 16 book series, but no. And these editions are amazing, and they've got like, they've got this really cool map in them, and there's images, illustrations throughout as well. So, they're so lovely. They've got these like nice title page, chapter pages as well. And I definitely want to do a reread in this collection one day. Yeah. Lovely illustrations. This is called the Illustrated Edition. That's that one. And then I also have book 2, which is Royal Assassin. And then finally we have Assassin's Quest, which is absolutely massive. So yeah, when I do my reread of this, I'm going to be like sat with it for a long time. I'm going to need like assistance, someone to hold it for me. Anyway, I've already read this series. I already have the paperbacks. And of course I had to get these special editions. Okay, so that's everything for this video. I'd love to know what special editions you guys have, and if you try and get any first prints, because I don't have any first prints of any books, I don't think. So yeah, I'd love to know if you have any, and if you have any special editions. So please let me know down in the comments, and we'll chat down there. In the meantime, I'm gonna go and read this, and hopefully I'll finish it soon, but it probably will take me a little while. I know there's not much left, but it is quite dense, and I'm reading it physically, also listening to it, so it will take me a bit longer. But yeah, okay, I'll see you later guys. Bye.